And I was thinking of this very much in Las Vegas this past week, where I've seen a lot of death and a lot of people die either in front of me or after right before I get there. Yeah. And after a while, to me it's important to see everything with fresh eyes every time, because if you're not outraged or horrified as a reporter, you can't do a very good job to tell the horror of the situation. Right. But how do you keep that beginner's mind, that beginner's eye of being, whether it's horrified or whatever it is, every single time?
Well, I wouldn't...
Because you talk about beginner's mind.
Yes. It's a phrase that Suzuki Roshi coined, the founding teacher of the San Francisco Zen Center in Tassajara and Green Gulch in California. But it's a beautiful concept from Japanese Soto Zen, beginner's mind. And the quote is, in the mind of the experts, there are few possibilities. In the mind of the beginner, there are many. So keep the mind open, new emergences are possible that when our minds are closed, we can't see. So this has to be a practice. It can't be a philosophy or a catechism or some kind of thing. It has to be a practice. And you're like right in its face in a way that none of us are, except in our own ways. But you are like very publicly out there. And so I think that cultivating a certain kind of empathic transparency, so that it's not like you shut down, which often happens even in medicine. You can only take so much suffering and then you shut it off. And the mindfulness is the opposite of that. It's opening up the space and letting it move through you, so that it's not like you don't have profound compassion, empathy, and so forth, but your humanity, and I see this in you on television, your humanity, your very presence is healing for people because you're listening. And that listening is a form of mindfulness. And you're also giving people an opportunity to have millions of people listen to their grief, listen to their loss, listen to the insanity of what's happening in the body of the United States of America. We need to hear that.
It is interesting to me how grief and loss is something that we don't talk about, that people are surprised if they see on TV. If people see anger on TV, that's normal. They think, on cable news, it's normal to have a person be angry and shouting and whatever, arguing with each other. If you turn on and you see a genuine expression of sorrow or sadness or loss, people seem surprised by that.
I think this is part of our collective education, and that in that sense, the media, the media has been challenged. I don't know enough about history to know whether this is the first time it's ever been this bad, or it's always been this bad, but in different ways. And then Trump's added a completely orthogonal dimension beyond belief.
Orthogonal?
That's for another.
Okay.
But
I looked that one up.
But the thing is, I write about it in Coming to Our Senses.
Yeah,
but the thing is, it is, I think, an incredible opportunity for all of us to not fall into despair, depression, reactivity, or anger, but to actually fall into wakefulness with compassion and find new, imaginative, creative ways to interface with those who we project otherness onto, not the sort of people who love us and who think we're the greatest, but just those very other people, and to give voice to them as you do on CNN, and to sort of have us actually realize that genetically speaking and medically speaking and in every other way, including, I think, politically speaking, although it seems like the differences are insurmountable, as human beings, we are virtually 99.9% the same around the world, no matter what our beliefs. And those beliefs are really fungible, and they have a lot to do with the pain and suffering and fear that we've experienced over life, and also personality and how our brains are wired. And I do recommend you read Robert Sapolsky. It's only 600 or 700 pages, but absolutely brilliant on the best and the worst of human beings. And of course, being a neuroscientist and a primatologist, he can tell us how, a lot of this stuff didn't just come from like the Middle Ages. It came from like when we were on the savannah in Africa, way before we became human. So a lot of this is We call ourselves Homo sapiens sapiens. You know, I talk about that sometimes. It means from Latin sapere, to taste. Excuse me, it means the species that knows and knows that it knows. So there's a certain kind of arrogance to that. Yeah, we're the species that knows, and we know that we know. And so that's awareness and meta-awareness, not cognition and metacognition. So I think that it's time we lived our way into that, because the stakes are only whether our grandchildren will have, the possibility of living a life of integrity, or whether they're going to create a hell on earth where a very small minority will have everything and the large majority will be suffering like nobody's business. And so if we can imagine it, what's going to happen actually is the unimaginable, whether it's North Korea or whatever. What's going to happen is the unimaginable. We're not that smart, as Mark Twain observed, to sort of really get it right in terms of the future. But we can change the future by changing our relationship to the present. That's the only leverage, the only fulcrum we have.